Hello, everyone, and welcome to Looking Up. This is a podcast for Christian women. My name is Carla Moore, and I'm one of your hosts. And with me is, well, not with me, but somewhere else in another state is Kathy Pollard, your other host. And we enjoy getting together once a week and just talking about things that we find interesting and important, and things about God, things about families, things that just we find to be important and interesting to others. We hope, anyway, that they're interesting to others. We have just spent time together last weekend at Equipped in Kentucky, and we're just excited to sit down again and have a conversation over something that we find interesting and hope you will as well. So how is everything over at night there in Bowling Green? Because we're talking a little bit later than we normally do.
Well, because you've been traveling, you just got home. So thank you for being willing to record this, even though you just got home. But you put a lot of
Well, I
pressure
wanted
on
to
me
talk to
just now
you.
that, thanks. You put a lot of pressure on me just now to share something interesting.
Well, you got all
So
kinds of things interesting going on there.
I actually do. First of all, we now have electricity in our barn, which is
Oh,
a big deal,
yeah.
a very big deal. And it kind of happened by accident because the milking machine motor itself died. And I think it's because, I'm not really sure, but I think it's because we're just running out a really long extension cord out there and it
Mm-hmm.
just can't carry enough juice or something. I don't really know. But anyway, um, it turned out that Jeremy Waddell and Kevin Eubanks ended up coming over and arranging it so now we have electricity going out to the barn, and we even have a light out there up in the ceiling and a little outlet. So instead of running an extension cord all the way out there and just plug it in, we'll be able to plug a fan in, for the hot days. We'll be able to have
Yeah.
electricity in the winter instead of Neil using a flashlight. So it's huge. And the
Mm-hmm.
first time that Neil milked after that was all set up, I said, well, how was it? And he said, oh, revolutionary. So,
Really?
yeah,
Yeah.
just
That would have been nice to have during the winter.
yeah, it'll be nice this next winter. But so
Mm-hmm.
that was just unexpected. We didn't know when we woke up that morning that we'd have electricity
Yeah.
out in the barn. So what turned out as a kind of a big aggravation ended up being a great thing for us. Not so much for
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy and Kevin, who I'm sure had other plans that day. The
They have
very
both helped
day,
y'all out a lot, I know.
they really have. The very day right after Equipped, by the way. So,
Mm. And they're busy
um,
and yeah, and tired, I'm sure.
yeah,
Well, good. Well, you
yeah.
haven't said anything about peaches lately. Do you know if do we have an exciting announcement, or do you know yet?
Well, we're not 100% because the vet's supposed to come out at about 6 weeks and test for sure, but
Mm-hmm.
she still has shown zero signs of being in heat. So we're pretty sure she
Mm-hmm.
is pregnant. So,
Well, that's exciting.
yeah, that's very
A
exciting.
baby peaches
A
or a
baby
baby peach.
peaches. And in other news, we've just got a big old truckload full of horse manure,
It
aged
smells good
horse
around
manure.
there.
And, I don't, when it's aged like that, it really doesn't have much of a smell. It's been aged and
Yeah.
turned so that it doesn't pick up
Okay.
weed seeds and things like that. And we
Mm-hmm.
topped off all our beds, and I was able to finally get out there and plant some herbs in my herb spiral. And hopefully this weekend we'll be able to go get the seeds in and get some more plants and things like that. So
Yeah.
I'd almost gotten to the point. In fact, I mentioned it to Neil that, we're so far behind in the gardening things. I almost got to the point where I just said, let's just skip it this year. We'll just work on enriching the soil, and
Oh, I
not
can't
even
imagine
worry
you
about
skipping
it.
that.
And I guess that lasted for about a day or two, and then we changed our minds again.
Uh,
Oh,
yeah.
instead, let's go get some horse manure.
Mm-hmm. I can't imagine you not being able to have your
Uh,
hands in the dirt.
oh, me neither. And I'm glad that was probably the day after Equip that I said that because we were tired.
Yeah, you shouldn't do it. Make any major life decisions right after
Don't,
equipped.
yeah, don't make any decisions when you're a little bit tired.
Mm-hmm.
So, how about you?
Yeah. How about me? What?
What's
Anything
going on?
exciting? Is
I
that what
mean,
you're asking? Oh,
it doesn't even have to be exciting. Just what's going on.
okay. Just something boring. Well, we
Mm-hmm,
flew
mm-hmm.
from Nashville today, and you know how on Southwest you line up according to you have numbers.
Right?
So when you check in, you get a number to board. And ours today was A42 and A43.
Nice.
And A is always good
Mm-hmm.
because, and usually we do early bird, pay a little bit extra for early bird because I don't know, it just makes me feel better mentally to not have to fight for a seat and to know that I'm going to sit by John after, anyway, just
Mm-hmm.
stuff that has happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have these little, I'm sure people who've flown will know what I'm talking about. They're marked. You stand in order. There's 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 11 to 15, and so forth on down. And then they're on both sides. So we're A42 and 43. And when they started calling for us to board or to line up, we went over there and we are 42 and 43. And we were like, there's this guy standing in my spot and his wife
Oh,
standing next to him. And I could see his boarding pass and it was 44 and 45. I don't know what it is about me that annoys me. But normally when we get like a 44, 45, we'll stand towards the back of that area and let 41, 42, and 43 come first. But no, he was standing at the front of that boarding area. And I stood next to him. I didn't get behind him. I stood next to him and he never would look at me. He's just looking all around and kind of pretending like I'm not there. And, you stand there for 10 or 15 minutes before they called to let you board. And he never did move. And it's just kind of one of those really dumb things about me that I don't like when people are unfair. And oh, this is such a first world problem, isn't it? Because I think, what if he gets the seats that we want? I know it's ridiculous. But there's these two, what John likes to do, there's towards the exit row, there's two seats by themselves. And that way he can just lay, he can stretch himself across my seat and his. But if there's someone sitting next to us on a 3-seater, then he has to, which I dread too, because then he's only on me and can't spread out on the other side. So
oh
I feel
dear.
so petty saying that because it was so dumb, but you know, it's just a pet peeve of mine.
I feel the same way. And
Sorry about that.
you can't say anything because
Mm-hmm.
that never goes well either. I've seen that where people have said, "Excuse me, we're actually number 42 and
Yeah.
43." And then, a lot of
Mm.
times they respond like, "Oh, make sure you get your
Yeah.
number." Everybody make sure you're
Yeah.
in your spot. Like they just blow it out of proportion.
Yeah. No, it's ridiculous. There was a girl like the section above us, and she was asking everybody, "What's your number? What's your number?" She said, "I don't want to get in front of you." And I was thinking, yeah, well, she understands. And somebody said to her, "We're all going in the same place." And I thought, that's how I should feel. But I don't. I don't feel like that. I feel like you should move back to the back of the section and I should have my A42 and A43.
Because you
But
paid for the early bird special.
yeah. So that's my petty story for the day.
Well,
It's not very nice of me, but it is what it is.
I have something that'll make you feel better about yourself.
Okay. All right.
So yesterday I made us smoothies. Neil was going to have to take his to go, and I just kind of follow a basic formula. When I do smoothies, I do Greek yogurt and raw milk and some sort of frozen fruit.
Mm-hmm.
And then like we've got these super greens and collagen powder, and then I usually add some sort of spice. So it's either going to be cinnamon or turmeric or ginger, something like that. Well, anyway, yesterday I decided to opt for frozen bananas as the fruit. And so I'm mixing it all up. I hand Neil's, he goes out the door. It's actually a few minutes before I can take the first sip of my smoothie. But when I did, I almost died. It was horrific. It had
Uh-oh.
the worst taste. And I was like, what is this? What is this? And it took me a minute. And then I finally figured out what I did. I grabbed out 2 packs of frozen bananas. Usually when
Mm-hmm.
I usually cut the banana in half or I break it off into fourths and I just put it in these little Ziploc bags. So I grabbed out 2 packs since I was making enough for 2 people. I realized that one of them was not frozen banana. It was frozen horseradish. Horseradish.
Oh, that's horrible.
because I literally only use that stuff about once a year. If we end up having prime rib and I want to make a horseradish sauce,
Mm-hmm.
and this last time I got smart and I thought instead of throwing out the rest of this horseradish, I'm going to freeze it in an ice cube tray. So I'll have it next time. And so I froze it in an ice cream tray, popped out and said, I did not label it. And let me tell you, folks,
Not
in case
smart.
you don't know, that frozen horseradish looks exactly like frozen banana, but
Uh-oh.
they don't taste the same. So I called Neil real
I bet
quick and
that
I
was
was like,
slightly hot.
oh, it was awful. I called Neil and my jaw still feels weird just thinking about it. I was like, don't drink it. Don't touch it. Don't drink it. Save
Had he already
yourself.
had a sip of it?
But no, he said he was praying.
Oh,
He was praying on his way in. So he hadn't taken a sip. I was like,
God
save
saved him.
yourself.
I made cumin toast one time instead of cinnamon toast because they look the same. They do not smell or taste the same. I did not actually take a bite of it. I could smell it before I took a bite of it. So thankfully, that did
Uh,
not happen.
Savory toast.
Well, I guess, horseradish is good for you. So maybe you got some health
Yes,
benefits in that one
it
swig.
is.
Did you swallow it or spit it out?
Oh, I swallowed it. Because it's, I'm just sipping a smoothie. So I'm drinking it down. And
Mhm.
it was a ton of horseradish because I froze the whole rest of that squeezy container
Mhm.
and put it in ice cube trays and put them on a Ziploc bag. So I dumped that whole thing in there. It was a ton of horseradish.
Yeah. I would
So,
think that that would be very, very, very important to label the horseradish
well, now I learned
over
my
just about
lesson.
anything else because I'm picturing thing like steam coming out your nose and ears at the same time. Gross.
Well, I don't even know if there are any
Well,
health benefits to horseradish, but if there are, I think we're good to go for the rest of our life. We just got it
I
all
know
done
that
in
that's
one fell swoop.
it's potent.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
it's potent. It's a plant, right?
is it a root?
You're supposed to know all the plant questions. Yeah, it's a
Listen,
root.
I
I
don't
think it's a
even
root.
like horseradish. I don't eat horseradish sauce. I just make it for Neil
John
because he
loves it.
loves it. So does Neil.
Yeah, John loves it.
Yeah,
Yeah, not
I don't
me.
really, I don't care for it. So, but that was,
Hmm.
don't be like me.
Don't be like you. Okay, so don't be like Kathy and not labeling the horseradish and making a horseradish smoothie. You might be onto something there. You know what? If
I'm
you
gonna put that
lose
in a
10 pounds in the
cookbook.
next couple of days, you're going to lose 10 pounds and your skin's going to be glowing. And that's going to all be because of horseradish smoothie.
Oh, oh, I'll create a
You might be
TikTok
onto
or
something.
something and become famous. I don't even have
Okay.
TikTok.
Well, no, we do not speak TikTok.
Yeah,
I don't know how to use it. I've never,
we do not
I've seen a
speak
few videos, but
TikTok.
no,
I used to
that
have
even
it.
sounds dumb, doesn't it?
I used to have it. I got rid of it.
I know there are some good things on it, but just I'm suspicious of it. Yeah.
Did you know
Well, so
they're trying to get rid of it in the United States?
I'm not surprised.
Hmm.
Well, I am sort of surprised, but I'm sure that people will not be for it.
Yeah, I'm very surprised, but I don't think it'll pass. But
Well, it's because it's Chinese
yeah, I'm not really sure. I just
and
know
we're
that they're
giving them all of our information, I think.
yeah, yeah, they're trying
Oh,
to
well.
pass a law to make it illegal in the United States.
Mm, well, it probably won't happen. So we went to, after we left Equipped, we went to, we drove to Chattanooga
Hmm.
and to a little two towns next to each other. Ottawa. It's just fun to say Ottawa.
Udowa,
Um, Ottawa. Yeah,
hmm
just say it, Ottawa.
Udowa.
John had a gospel meeting that started on Sunday. So we left Saturday, got there Saturday night. Sunday it started. We stayed with Ken and Martha Parker. We got to know them several years ago when they came on a trip with us and just love them. They are so much fun to be around. They're, older brother, older sister age to us, but
Okay.
just one of those relationships that you don't feel like there's any age difference. You just enjoy being with them. And we loved our time with them, stayed with them. But we got to see lots of other friends too, because, just a lot of people live in that area. We
Hmm.
spent Monday with Gary and Michelle Massey. And I told Michelle, when we got to know Gary, he was on the original filming expedition. He's on the Bible and Passages videos with John. And I didn't know him. I had met him a couple times before that. So that was 2015. But apparently he's kind of a big deal in Chattanooga. He's an attorney. And so everywhere we drove around Chattanooga, I kept seeing these billboards with his face. Like the first time I did, we were just driving along and I was like, that's Gary on a billboard. And his slogan is gotta get Gary. So anyway, we got to spend Monday with them, and they have a neat farm, and
Mhm.
you would enjoy seeing that. They've got cows and
I've stayed there.
some babies, had two babies. Oh,
Mhm.
that's right. That's right.
Mhm.
But they've got two new baby cows and some more
Oh,
on the way. Their son, Mark, is quite the farmer. He's only 15, but he does lots of stuff on the farm. And but we got to see Barry and Celicia Greider and spent Wednesday morning with them, had breakfast with them. And then we also went to visit the house to house, heart to heart headquarters, kind of. I guess it's the headquarters. Luke Griffin, he's a collector. And so he had some things that he wanted John to see. He collects coins, memorabilia. He has a copy of, oh, now I'm forgot what it was, but great big, a Gutenberg copy of a Gutenberg Bible. And
wow.
it's two huge volumes. Yeah.
Wow.
And we got to see where the sisters podcast records. And I got to sit in one of their pretty chairs and there saw their studio and saw Debbie Mitchell is a friend. She's Luke's mom, but she's gone with us on a trip too and has become a friend. So Rod Silliman was there and Matt Wallen. So anyway, we just enjoyed getting to see people in that area that we don't get to see very often. And
Hmm.
so it was, we've been away from home a lot the last couple of weeks, but got to spend it with a lot of dear people. So that's my favorite part of doing this kind of thing. So it's a blessing to get to do that kind
That
of
is a
thing.
blessing. Hmm.
Yeah. But
Are you in your office?
I am.
It's looking good.
I am. Well, those right there are John's that have
Hmm.
stayed in here. The top one is a panorama of Jerusalem.
Yeah, I love
And then the
that.
bottom, it's from, I think it's taken from Tower of David,
Okay.
at the very, very top when you go up all those
Mhm.
stairs. And it has, I think, the best view of the city of Jerusalem. But
Mhm.
then the bottom one is the original film crew. I sound really fancy when I say that for Bible and passages. Anyway, so that's where we are, and we're back home, and um, got one more thing to do before we can settle down a little bit. So I'm looking forward to that, being home.
Yeah, I bet you are. You guys have been crazy busy.
Yeah, well, it's all good stuff and
Mhm.
enjoyable and good people. So
Mhm.
anyway, you got more stuff you want to talk about, or should we launch?
Well, I
Because
did
that's kind
kind
of a
of,
good segue.
it is. I did. I wanted to share something, but it's not important. And then you've already done a segue. So now I don't want to share
Oh, I'll take back the segue and tell us what you want to tell us.
it. Well, you already know it, but I'm sharing it with the world since the whole world listens to
Okay.
us so
All
that I
right.
will
So
have
we're
it.
going to hold you to it now.
So
You sure
I'm,
you want to do this?
yes, no. So I'm ditching the dye and been thinking about this. And it kind of just, we've talked about this before. Are we going to color our hair forever? And
Mhm.
heretofore, I've been like resoundingly, yes. And for some reason, it has just really hit me very strongly that I'm kind of tired of it. And I'm ready for my hair to feel more healthy and to like focus on my scalp health and my hair health and my just not always worrying about my roots coming in or I think about all the time and money I'm putting into it. I'm highlighting my hair. I'm also coloring my hair. I'm also root covering my hair, timing events, timing when I do run my hair around events and never really being totally happy with even the color. And it's getting kind of this brassy in it, So anyway, just I'm kind of excited about it. I've been doing a little bit of research and listening to some people who have done this already, and they say like the first 6 to 8 months are the very hardest because it's just
Mhm.
awkward when it's growing
Yeah.
out and there are things that you can do like tones or low lights and all, but I kind of don't want to do anything to my hair. I kind of just want to like give it a break, grow it out. I have no idea what's even under this because I've literally been highlighting and or coloring my hair since I was 15.
Maybe color your
So
eyebrows.
yeah, I mean, I know it's dark. You can see my roots. I know my hair is dark.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know what it's going to look like. Um, and I reserve the right once I get it all grown out. It'll probably take, unless I go for a drastic short haircut, which I probably won't. It'll probably take about 2 to 2.5 years to grow it all out. And then if I absolutely hate it, I can change my mind. But I want to
Yeah.
get there and I want to
Yep.
see
Sure.
how it
Here.
feels. And it's little dumb things too. Like I always want bangs now to kind of cover little baby grays coming in. I never pull my hair back in a ponytail anymore for the same reason, or French braid it for the same reason. Cause I got all these tiny little baby grays coming in right there at my forehead. And I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
have to worry about that anymore. I want to be
Yeah.
able to do what I want with my hair. So we
Mm-hmm.
shall see. You want to do it with me?
Well, when you were telling me about it the other day, I was sitting there, my heart was like beating faster. I was like, what if I did it with her? Then we could do it together and then we wouldn't. But I don't know. You're saying
How do
something. What are
you
you biting your tongue saying?
how do you think John would feel?
I I don't know because normally he would never say don't do it.
Mhm.
But normally he'll say, I like your hair like that. And that's kind
Mhm.
of a clue to me that that's what he likes, would like for me to stay. But you said Neil is all for it.
Yeah, and he's kind of like John, he'll say things about the way I look or whatever. But when I mentioned it to him, he was like, "Go for it. I love that."
Mm-hmm.
So he's now he doesn't know what I'm going to look like. So he might decide when it's all, like, no, it's not working for me. But I told you this in person, but I'll say it on here too. I think both you and my sister, if you ever decide to do that, will look fantastic because you've both got the dark features, dark eyes, really dark eyes. And I think that's very striking when it starts coming in, silver, or when your natural sparkle starts coming in. I think it'll be very striking because of your coloring, your skin coloring, your eye coloring. I'm sort of
Well, it's
nondescript,
like,
nondescript everything. So my hair will probably come
no,
in, come in that way also. But
well, like we were saying the other day, I think that whatever your natural color is, it will be beautiful because that's what God made you that way. And, it'll
mhm.
complement your skin tone and all that. And so I think it's exciting and I'm glad you're going to do it. And I'm going to cheer you from afar. And if I could do it, can't snap, but if I could do it and have it done, I'd
Yeah,
absolutely do it in a
yeah,
heartbeat.
yeah.
It's just I'm terrified, as we have said before, of the whole skunk thing because your hair is, I mean, it is dark at the roots and lighter, but I don't think it's going to be quite so skunky as mine will when I do it. So I have a Facebook friend that's been doing it for the past few months, and so I've been watching her with interest.
Mhm.
And I think she had some of the color stripped out somehow, and I don't know how it all works, and I'll find out. But
Mhm.
still, she's got the bits of gray and then dark,
Mhm.
and anyway, it's not a life or death decision. I know it's not anything um that I anyway, yeah, I think that's going to be great and I'm excited to see you do it and I think that you're beautiful no matter what, you know, whatever color you are, whatever you like to do. I'm glad that you feel comfortable doing it and want to do it and who knows, maybe if I see it's not very painful for you, then I'll at some point I'm going to have to, just don't know when.
Well, here's what I do know. I'm the only one that cares. Nobody cares about my hair, just me. It's a big deal. And I'll be like thinking that people are going, what is she doing? But nobody cares. They're not, you
Yeah.
know, I'm the only
Well,
one
I
that
don't think
does.
that's
So,
completely true. I think people will be interested in it, just like I've been interested in watching. I had one of my friends,
well,
Angela Smith, grew hers out, and I watched
yeah,
her, and I thought it looked great.
yeah.
But hers also was lighter than mine. The issue with mine is just it's dark, and I
Mhm.
think yours will be less severe as it grows out. But I think it's going to be really beautiful when you do
I
it.
think I'll probably look pretty different because it's so dark. I remember, and people associate you with a certain hair color, and
Mm-hmm.
remember one year I went to PTP dark. I tried to dye my hair brunette because it's bleached, it won't hold dye like that. But I went to PTP with dark hair. I had just had it done, and some guy that I don't even know, like personally know, came up to me and said, "I miss the blonde." And I was like, "Who are you?" Yeah. Okay, thanks.
You don't get a vote.
Thanks for your input.
Yeah.
But I think it's just because people get used to things. They get used to seeing you a certain way, and it represents change or whatever. Who knows? But if anybody listening wants to do it with me, we can be silver sisters together.
Silver sisters. You're not going to be silver though.
I know.
I don't think you have that much.
I think I do, just because they pop up when you're trying to color your hair. But we'll see. Who knows what it's going to look like. It'll be fun to find out.
Well, Martha, the ones that we just stayed with, last time I saw her hair was more of a brown, and she said her hairdresser retired, and so she thought, well, this is as good a time as any, and she looks beautiful. She's got white hair. And so you're right. I think nobody cares except you, but it's, hair. While we're on that subject, I think people have opinions about how everyone else should or shouldn't do their hair. And it's just a personal thing, and we need to just let each other have their own style. And, there's not anything unbiblical about it's just anything. It's not extreme. So I'll stop there before I get myself in trouble.
I'm trying to figure out, no, I'm trying to figure out how to turn that hair conversation back to your segue.
Well, when we were at Equipped, we talked about this. And by the way,
speaking of Equipped, what an uplifting event that was.
It was. I hated that we weren't there for the whole thing, but that's kind of what we're going to spend a few minutes talking about, is not just Equipped, and not really Equipped at all, but things like Equipped and Focal Point and PTP and CYC and all of the other acronyms that I can't remember right now. How beneficial they are for our families, for us personally. And, I don't want to turn this into a negative kind of thing at all, but it is frustrating sometimes when there's all these good things out there and people don't take advantage of them. And I'm not, it's not a judgment thing on my part. Because there's things all the time that are going on that we don't know about, the reasons why people can't always attend things like this. But I really just do think that people don't understand how beneficial it is in so many ways. And there are things, we are exhausted from having been back to back to several different things like that, but it's such a great exhaustion. And just thinking about not just the spiritual learning that we're able to do, but being with people that we love all across the country, people that we've gotten to know because of things like this. Just the singing, there's so many good things that come from doing things like this, availing yourself of opportunities to grow, whether it's a gospel meeting. And you don't hear as much about those anymore for whatever reason. I think we do more seminars and things like that, and those are good too. But so we just wanted to spend a few minutes talking about how your life can be enriched if you take advantage of things like this, and not just you yourself, but your family, even when it's hard. It's one of those things that I think about. When you do things that are hard, God blesses you for it. And sometimes it's hard to get your whole family together, get them dressed, get them fed, get them down to the church building, get them wherever you're going, spend the money to go somewhere, fly, drive, whatever, rent a place to stay. It's expensive, but God will bless those efforts. And I've seen it over and over again. But I wanted to ask you, because I know I've said this before, I think you and Neil just do, and I know it's not just y'all, but you motivate people. John is always talking about how when we have something like this ahead of us, you have to educate people about it, you have to promote it, and you have to motivate people. And some people are not very good at that. and I think they just don't know how. But to educate about why it's a good thing, educate about what's coming, who's going to be here, what we're going to learn, how it's going to benefit your family. So you educate people about that, and then you promote it and promote it and promote it and promote it. And then you motivate people by, trying to help them see how beneficial it is. But y'all are you just do a really good job of all three of those things. I've seen it when you were at Bear Valley with the lectures there, and I've seen it there at Lehman Avenue. And again, I know, because I know you, that you're not going to want to take credit for that, but I think that both of you are just do an excellent job with that. So what do you think makes a difference in those three things: educating, promoting, motivating? Or do you have other ideas about what makes it?
I think good leadership makes a big difference, and we've been very blessed to work with some excellent elders in situations like this. But I think that something that Neil does really well in situations like that is he tries to make everybody feel essential. Like,
Yeah.
you're an important role in this, and it's not a program that belongs to the few people that are planning it. It's ours collectively. And I don't know, when you develop that kind of, we need you, you're essential, here's your role, then everybody feels like it's their event. And I think that helps motivate them to want to come and be a part of it, and sort of that added, he's also good about that attitude of like thanking people ahead of time, just assuming they're going to come, assuming they're going to be a part of it and supportive, and that we're all going to grow from it together, instead of kind of browbeating or guilting or, I don't know.
Positive instead of negative.
Yeah. I think he's pretty good about that. But we're also,
I think he's a good motivator of leadership too, though. And not, I don't mean that the leadership was not in charge of things, but I've seen both of you being encouraging toward your leadership and helping them, convincing them that this is something that's good for the congregation, for visitors, for whoever. So that's important too, don't you think? Motivating leadership.
Yeah, I do. And being thankful for when they're willing to step out and try things that they're not really familiar with or haven't done before. Yeah, that's a big deal. And I think it takes a lot of courage and trust. There's finance involved, and commitment from everybody, and time, all those things that can seem like a huge undertaking. And when they're willing, and not only willing, but they jump in with both hands, that's a lot to be thankful for.
Well, I know that I made the comment and may have not been a very, I don't know, wasn't not a non-encouraging thing to say, but I was thinking when I was tired last week, thinking what must it be like to just be able to go and enjoy? When you think about there's so many people in the planning and in the preparing a lesson, or you're cooking or whatever. So, but then when I really step back and think about it, those of us who are participating in, whether it's giving a lesson or providing food or organizing, just things like taking the trash out each day, because that's something that you just assume someone else is going to do, but there has to be some planning involved in that. I think that the ones who are involved in the planning and carrying out are the ones that are blessed the most, even if you are really tired.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I've thought those exact same things, what would it feel like to just show up? But, it's a Christian principle that you, if you're just a consumer all the time, and I'm not saying it's not good just to show up at things, because that's kind of what we're going to talk about is show up at these things.
Yeah, please do.
But if you're only ever just consuming or taking in and not being a part of and giving, and those are just different ways to grow, and benefit from these things. And I think there's a fellowship that grows there too. You know how that is. If you participate in something with somebody else, like the trips that you guys do, think about the relationships that you form because you're
Mm-hmm.
all doing that together. Any service opportunity or things that you do with somebody else, that relationship grows too. And that's kind of like that's just like icing on the cake. It's really about this
Yeah.
event that we're trying to do for all of us. Like ours was on the Gospel of John, and it was so rich just to spend all those days soaking in all those wonderful things about the Gospel of John.
Mm-hmm.
Just really soul filling. But then you've got all the little asides too that are going on because we're hand in hand working on this. And,
Mm-hmm.
it grows us as a church family. And then also the blessing of seeing the people that are coming in from other congregations or out of state and,
Mm-hmm.
fellowshipping with them, growing with them, singing
Yeah.
with them. It's just a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm. When you were talking, I was just thinking that most people start out being consumers of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we usually start out, being invited to something, or just if you grow up being part of a congregation, usually you're going to be introduced to that early and helping with things. But if you come into Christianity later, you do attend these things, and you get to sit there and you get to soak in and absorb and let people serve you. But I think as you grow out of that, and you're not just consuming, but you're participating, you're offering how you can help. And so it's kind of to me, a natural progression of learning how to help and to take part in it. I was thinking, when we got married, Johnny Ramsey performed our wedding ceremony. And what he said about marriage was that it's the vestibule of heaven. And I, in the middle of the wedding ceremony, I didn't think anything of it, but because I've listened to the recording of it a few times, and then John has brought it up a few times since then, think about the vestibule of heaven, which, vestibule is a foyer. So it's just right before you go into the auditorium. And so I think about how these kind of things,
Yeah.
I'm an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when we're around large crowds of people, it just drains me, and it's hard, and I have to, retreat for a little while and charge back up. But so many times with events like this, there's people I love there, and that charges me up. If it's people that I know, even if it's people I don't know, if I have people that I know and love around me, then I get to know more people. I think it's recharging. And to me, there's so much about it that is a vestibule of heaven, a foyer of heaven, if you will, just because it's so enjoyable. I jotted that down because it made me think that's how I feel at so many of these events when I walk in, and you're there. And even if you're not there, if other people are there that I know and love, it just fills my soul. And I love that.
What do you mean, even
But
if
I
I'm
thought
not there?
it's not nearly as good, but I still can eke out a little bit of blessing from it, even if you're not there.
Okay.
But I thought maybe we could talk about some of the blessings that come from these events. And so I have a short list, but I know it could be much longer. And I'm sure you have some things too. But I mean, obviously, number one is the spiritual growth that comes from it. And, you know, there's so many times that we're offered these opportunities to grow. Bible classes on Sundays and Wednesdays, or whenever you have maybe a small group, or you have um, a devotional one night during the week or something. And those to me are like minimal for helping you grow. We're all responsible for growing ourselves and studying and being in the Word and learning on our own. But this is just these kind of things, like you were talking about the rich study of John. And sometimes I look at these programs and I think, how in the world could you find that many things about one book of the Bible? I don't know why I'm surprised, because I've seen it over and over done. But it's not just the book of John, but it's how Bart Warren can talk about the book of John, how Neil Pollard can talk about this part of the book of John. All of these men that came in and had their specific assignment, and And it's just kind of mind blowing to think about. Never saw that before. I've read that how many times, but I've never seen that before.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is kind of my number one spiritual growth. What do you think?
Yeah, that's probably my number one too. And you mentioned the Gospel of John, and the equipped theme for next year is Isaiah. And I'm already looking forward to that because, John is a gospel, which I love. I'm probably more familiar with that. Isaiah, not so much, bits and pieces.
Right, me too.
So I'm already looking forward to that. And that whole, it's almost like giving yourself permission to shut out everything else and shut out all the other distractions in the world and not think about everything else that's going on, and just having this concentrated study on a book of the Bible, and I love that we're setting aside a time to do that and giving ourselves permission to do that. I do want to backtrack a little bit as I'm overthinking. What I said about the consumer thing kind of had a negative slant to it. And I don't mean to imply that the people that came that weren't a part of actually putting it on were just consuming. Because there is so much value to them coming and attending and supporting it. And we really appreciate that. And everybody,
that's what we offer it for.
Yeah, that's what it's there for. And not only that, but they weren't just consuming because they had the expense of traveling there, taking time off, finding a place to stay, so I'm retracting that statement because I don't mean for that to have a negative slant at all. And we really appreciate everybody that comes and does show up for these things.
I didn't take it that way at all, and I doubt anybody else would. But I appreciate what you're saying.
Just in case.
Consumer isn't the right word, but just someone who attends, an attendee, which I think we're always glad to see people attending. But when you said shutting the world out, no, finish. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Well, I was just going to go on to the spiritual growth that you mentioned. I was thinking about growing the family. You talked about the fellowship and of people that you already love and you're excited about seeing, but then we always get to meet new people that feels like they're not all that new. We don't know them, but we do because they're brothers and sisters. And no other relationship, I don't think, forms as quickly, except for when you fall in love. That might top that one. But no other relationship can you do that with. We've already got this common bond, this common denominator of the blood of Christ, and we're showing up at this event, and you start talking, and how many times, amazingly, do you find, oh, we have all these things in common, and we know these same people, and and it's like you're hugging each other by the time the conversation's over. And so you're kind of expanding that whole Christian family, fellowship, connection, support group, all those things that God wants us to enjoy while we're here, that He's blessed us with. And events like this help build that up and strengthen it. And again, I know we keep bringing this up probably ad nauseum, but so many people are really wrestling with this whole comfort and isolation thing. And it does take a lot of effort to go out and be a part of something like this. But when you do, and you are exposed to more of God's people, only good can come from that. And, you're doing yourself a favor and you're doing your family a favor when you expose them to relationships with God's people.
And we're meant to be together. And I know sometimes we need a little bit of alone time, but if we're isolating ourselves from other Christians, then we're robbing ourselves from the strength that we get from one another. We were just talking about this with Ken and Martha the other night, how do people survive without fellow Christians and the body of Christ and the family of God when tragedy happens, or when you want to celebrate something, or when your, as this happened, I think to Martha, as when your hot water heater explodes and floods your house when your husband is out of town and you have two small children, and then people come over to help you because they're Christians and they want to help. And so I think when we avail ourselves of being with other Christians and getting to know them and putting ourselves out there, which is harder for some of us than others, then God rewards us in those kinds of ways. You said something about I can't remember how you put it, but it made me think of camp. And I John was always involved in camp when the boys were growing up. When we were at Southwest in Austin, and he taught in the school there, and he started co-directing. I don't know. Jordan and Jacob were probably barely old enough to go because they would let your kids go if you went, I think in the third, no, if they were 5 or something like that. But they didn't start being campers until they were third grade, finishing the third grade.
Okay.
So he would go, he would take the boys, and I had Micah, and he was too little to go at the time. But when he hit that 5-year-old stage, I was like, okay, either I'm going to have another baby or I'm going to have to go to camp because those were my options. And so it seemed a little drastic to have another baby just to avoid 1 week of summer camp every year.
Tempting,
And so
tempting.
I thought, okay, tempting, yeah. But I ended up going starting, that would have been about 1993. And no, he was born in 98, so 2003. And I loved it. It was hard and it was sweaty. We would go to Hensel Camp, and it's a nasty, buggy, dirty, hot. Have I said sweaty?
Yes.
Sweaty. You swim in Cow Creek, and it is as it sounds, Cow Creek. But I loved it because I had a co-counselor. I did this with Denise Searles for many years. With Wendy Gibson, we were co-counselors for the younger high school girls, and that was kind of like my week of girls. And being around boys all the time, I didn't have a lot of girls around until they started getting a little bit older. But I don't know, it's just talk about soul enriching. And when you spend time with people in a location away from the world, and I know you do this, you're away. It's like you have shut off the world, and you're only there with people who have the same mindset. And of course, there's problems, and people get irritated with one another, and you run out of hot dog buns, and somebody throws up, or whatever. These things happen. But I got to where sometimes people would want us to make a run into town and get a Sonic drink or whatever. I didn't want to leave because it felt like, I don't want to use the word magic, but it felt like I just didn't want to go back to the world. I wanted to stay there in that little bubble because it felt like heaven, even though it was hot and sweaty and dirty and gross and all those other things, because I was with the best people in the world. And all we were doing was singing, and all we were doing was praying and learning new songs and studying the word and talking about Bible things. And not everybody can go to camp, but I think a lot more people can go to camp than do go to camp. And so I think that's another one of those things that we should take advantage of, or get your kids to take advantage of. And a lot of times I hear parents say they don't want to go. And I know this is a really touchy thing, but that would be something to me that for our kids, it wasn't really an option. We just knew that they were going to go, and they knew that they were going to go.
Yeah.
So again, that's kind of up to the individual parents and families and stuff. But I think it's important for kids to have those opportunities together. Is Ollie having an opinion about camp?
Yeah, sorry.
He wasn't barking. I didn't hear anything.
No, he was just wanting up here on the bench, and he kept pawing at me. So I thought, let me just lift him up here real quick. But then I ended up bumping my screen, and sorry,
I didn't hear anything.
Okay.
Anyway, so you've done camps, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, all the spectrum of camps, the ones where you wake up in the middle of the night and there's a big cockroach on your pillow.
Yeah, those are fun.
To the one we
It
have
doesn't eat much.
now. So you do know that's my greatest fear in all the land is a cockroach. They're just little demons. That's, as Neil said, that's where all the demons went, was in the cockroaches. But the Big Reedy, the one we have here that we go to, is really nice. So can't even use that. There's no, they're climate controlled cabins, and with their own showers. You don't have to take the scary hike to the bathhouse. So a great big beautiful lodge, but
is
all
it
the
even
elements.
camp?
You know,
Just
you're
a different
still
kind of camp, right?
you're still on bunk beds. You're still not in your own bed,
Yeah.
so that counts.
Yeah.
But all the
Mm-hmm.
elements are there. Spending time together, singing together, learning new songs.
Mm-hmm.
The campfire
Working in the
devotionals,
kitchen.
working in the kitchen, all the things that make it such a special week together.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to
Yeah.
say that um, I don't think either of us are advocating that you should go to everything. That I think that's impossible, and
Mm-hmm.
that no family should feel guilty if they're not hitting all the spiritual events that are offered in the nation.
Mm-hmm. There's
But
no way you can do all of them.
there's no
Mm-hmm.
way you can do that, and you don't even have to. But just being more mindful of, excuse me, if there is something in your area or something within driving distance, or something that you can participate in and you haven't, then maybe try it out. And
Mm-hmm.
we think that you'll be very blessed and maybe surprised at how much you enjoy it and will want to go back.
Yeah. Did your boys always want y'all to come or not to come to like youth devotionals or camp or whatever? Did they ever say anything one way or another?
No, they never said anything one way or another. Some of the camps
Our
we
kids
had,
wanted us there,
they did, yeah. We
I
had,
think anyway.
I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did. They would
Why
have
would they
cried.
not?
They would have cried if you weren't there.
Yeah.
So, and we did both. We had camps every year that Neil and I were both at, and then
Hmm.
also camps that they went off to and did without us. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like I said, I know that there's camps, they're not going to hold enough. Like you can't bring all the adults and the kids. So
mm-hmm.
I know that's impossible, but if it is a possibility and you can, I think it's a great thing to do. But I've heard some parents say, my kids don't want me to come.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I just never, we never, it wasn't necessarily an option because, part of it was because we worked with the church and we were part of the staff and a lot of these things. But
Mm-hmm.
I think they enjoyed having us there,
Yeah, I'm
especially
sure they
when I was
did.
in charge of canteen and I gave them an extra candy bar. Well,
uh,
so besides spiritual growth, besides the growth that you have with your family when you do things together, I think another one is just friends. And I was thinking that this may sound kind of strange, but I think what deepens a relationship is when you meet people in their sphere. And
mm-hmm.
like Ron and I have been married almost 38 years, and he knows who I'm talking about when I say my Aunt Jean or my friend from high school or whoever, because we've been together long enough that we know each other's friends and family and high
Mm-hmm.
school buddies and stuff. But coming up there to Equipped and I meet people in your congregation and I know your friends and I know who you're talking about when you're telling me something that's going on at Lehman. And I think that enhances our friendship. It gives
Mm-hmm.
us we have, it's something else that we share that we have in
Yeah.
common. And same thing with here, people here, we know people at Bear Valley together.
Excuse me. Mm-hmm.
So meeting friends of friends, I think is a neat thing. Um, Not to mention that I think marriages come out of these things. I know they have
Oh,
come from
yeah.
Hensel Camp and all of those retreats that we went on when
Mm-hmm.
we were college students. So that's a bonus for
It is
sure.
a
John
bonus.
and I met like that.
Mm-hmm. Marriages come out of those things, and marriages are strengthened by those things. If you
Mm-hmm.
when you
Absolutely.
attend those things together, your marriage grows. Unless you're fighting the
Mm-hmm.
whole time you're there, and then
That's never happened to us. I don't know what you are talking about.
oh, I'm just saying if it happens to
Yeah. Yeah.
somebody
Somebody
else.
out there. Oh boy. Well, there are all
Uh,
kinds of things that
mhm.
I was wondering what maybe prevents people from doing these things. And I think most of all, it's just our lifestyle of being busy and having uh, baseball lessons and piano lessons and tutoring. And I don't know what all else there is going on because it's been a while since we've had kids at home, but it's not just kids, but adults. We work from home. And so we work into hours that we used to have off. So I think that's probably the main thing, is a lack of time because we're busy with other things. And, that's one of those things that the devil works in distraction and busyness. And he wants to keep us away from each other. He wants to keep us from attending things like this.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be one of the things. What else do you think might prevent people from coming?
Well, I think we have the convenience of offering everything online. People will say, are these going to be streamed, or recorded? And and we do that. It's a great, option, but I don't know, maybe sometimes we would just rather have the convenience of watching it from our own home, watching the lessons that way, and not having to travel or get out or whatever. But I mean, and it's still beneficial to do that and to study. You just miss out on some of these other things that we've been talking about with the fellowship and friendships and just being a part of it. The singing, I told you when we were talking ahead of time Sunday morning, with everybody crammed in there and all the extra chairs, and the very first song, like the very first notes that we sang at the very first song, I could just feel the chills coming, and like, oh, this is beautiful. It's already special, and you can hear that in a recording online, but it's just not near the same as being in there.
No,
and not just
not
hearing
anything
it.
like it.
You're not just hearing it, but you're feeling it, when you're there.
Yeah.
So, but I just wonder if maybe that's part of it too. Just the convenience of, why go to the event when I can just watch it online.
Yeah. It's so much easier to stay home. And it's easier to stay home. And I feel that. I mean, here I am. This is my idea for a topic, and I'm encouraging people to go and do and be there. But yeah, there are times that I just don't want to do it. I just don't want to make the effort to, whether I'm feeling down or it means that I have to get dressed, and it means that I have to drive somewhere. I have to put on a happy face. I have to do whatever. And so I get that. I understand why it's a temptation to avoid. And so I think for me, mainly this whole topic is about encouraging people to just push yourself a little bit and do something that I promise you will be a blessing to you. And I've seen it over and over in my own life and in other people's lives. And what if I hadn't been there? What if I had not been there? It's just, this is one of those things. When I look back at John's heart event that happened that Sunday morning, what if the people who helped him had not been there that day? And I know that's not why we go to these things.
Yeah.
Because someone might collapse and have a heart event and I need to resuscitate them. No, that's not necessarily, that's the likelihood of that happening is very, very low. But I can't tell you how many times I've thought about what if Denny hadn't been there? And what if, all these, if Sarah hadn't been there, what if they hadn't been there? And so I'm grateful for that. That's just a side note. So mark that down as one of the reasons, because you might have to resuscitate someone. But I think another thing that I thought of is that a lot of people think, oh, that's just for preachers, and especially something like PTP, because it started out that way as for preachers, or Focal Point as a preacher's workshop. And so they think that's just for ministry families. That's not for me. But then I think a lot of those things exploded in numbers when people realized that that is for me, and that's something that's going to help me. And so I'm glad that people have seen that. It's not just for preachers, unless you're not invited, because it's not for you. But a lot of times you're going to see invitations for these things that might say a workshop for preachers that you are absolutely invited to and would be beneficial. So that's just a couple of things I thought about.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point, because with Equipped last year, some of our members hadn't been to anything like that. And even though they were helping out and helping prepare for it, they really had no idea what it was until after it was all over that first year. And we heard comments like, oh, that's what it is. They just really didn't quite understand what we were preparing for and what was about to happen. With PTP, one year, I'll never forget this. One year, I heard from one family that they told their kids that they could only do one trip that year. They could do PTP or they could go to Walt Disney World, and they used to do both. And across the board, all of their kids said PTP.
Wow.
So that's how much they loved it too, and maybe that's a
Yeah.
good reminder is don't just think through our own adult eyes with all the responsibilities and expense, but put yourself in your kids' shoes and how those opportunities become special for them and special memories for them, not to mention faith building for them and growing their own friendships and relationships. But, just remembering how we're not just talking about blessing ourselves, but blessing everybody in our family too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a lag in your words and your voice. I'm hoping that my internet's not about to crash, so we'll
Okay.
probably should bring it to a close anyway. But I
Okay.
just thought we might mention a few of the upcoming events or just the events that we know of. And I thought in the group next week we could talk about different things that are coming up that people might want to take advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
But there's retreats all the time, all over the place, and we'd love to hear where those are. There's a preacher's wife retreat. I think it's going to be at Big Reedy, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Sometime in September or something like that. I saw there was something in my bag from Equipped that had an ad for it.
Okay.
There's men's retreats that you don't know.
I don't know when it is.
Well, I don't know where that little flyer is, but I'm sure we'll
We'll
find
figure it
out
out.
next week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's Discipleship University that is going to be held here in Dripping Springs in August. I didn't even write the exact date down, but that's for teenagers, but adults are welcome as well. And usually there's lots of chaperones that come along when they travel. There's different speakers. It's always a really good event for teenagers. There's CYC, Challenge Youth Conference, and I think that's in the wintertime. I want to say like January, February, something like that. Lads to Leaders. There's always the Great Smoky Mountain Marriage Retreat in February, but there's marriage seminars and retreats everywhere. Wayne and Tammy Roberts do one. There's Trey and Leah Morgan. Those are all over the place, and that's one of those things that I might mention is sometimes you hear people say, I've been married for 40 years. I don't need that. But everybody could benefit from a marriage retreat. Focal Point is in San Marcos, Texas. Now I believe it's going to be in April every year. Of course, there's PTP, Polishing the Pulpit. That's going to be in 2 different places this year. It's going to be in Branson, Missouri in July, and in Sevierville in Tennessee in August. Those were the things that just immediately came to mind when I was jotting them down. Can you think of other things that we might mention? Of course, Equipped in April. And there you can share the dates of that next year as well.
Yeah.
So point is go, do, take part, grow, make friends, make relationships, make memories, grow your heart, grow your soul, grow your Bible knowledge. We just guarantee you won't regret. You won't forget it either, but you won't regret doing something that God tells you will help your soul, that you're fighting against the devil by making yourself stronger. And that's, something that we need to do. So go and do it. Go and do. I know you agree, even though
I do
there's
agree.
a lag between our voices.
Oh,
all right. Do you have something good this week?
I sure do.
Something good for me?
I'm pretty excited about this one. Did you see Alicia book out at Equipped?
Mm-hmm.
So when I first saw her, when I went up and hugged her, I was like, "Oh, you're so tan." And she looked like that really beautiful golden brown California tan. It's just perfect. And I just thought she came back from the beach or something. And she whispered in my ear that it was some mineral drops that you mix into your moisturizer and that they're supposed to be really, really good for you. So, anyway, she sent me the link and told me some information about it. And I ordered some and it came yesterday. It's called
Isle of Paradise.
Isle of Paradise. I mean, win-win right there.
Yeah.
They're self-tanning drops, and this one is for face and body. So you can get one that's just for your face that also has like vitamin C, things to help with lines and wrinkles and age marks. And, so it's like moisturizing your skin, but also age defying and adding in your little glow. They've got one
Hmm.
that's just for your body, and then I ordered the one that Alicia gets, and this one's face and body. So what you do is you put a little bit of your facial moisturizer in your hand, and you put however many drops you want. But I'm gonna start out with I'm gonna try just one since this is my first time for my face. And then when I do like my arms and legs, I might put a couple drops, 2 or 3 drops or whatever,
Mhm.
and just Alicia said, everybody's skin is different. So you kind of have to play around and find that sweet spot of how many drops. But it looked so natural. And I love the fact that it's also good for you to
Yeah.
use. So I'm going to try
What's the
this.
company?
Well, I don't know. It just says Isle of Paradise. I mean, they have their own website because I went to their website
Okay.
also. Um,
Hmm.
yeah. But so I'm going to try it and I will let you know how it turns out.
Well,
And
if you
you're
look
supposed
vastly different next week, we'll know that it worked.
or not.
Just don't come back looking like the little, what were the guys in the, oh, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
I've never actually seen
Don't
that.
look like them. Okay.
Well, it
Never mind.
works. It works for Alicia Bookout. Let's put it that way. So I'm hoping it'll
Yeah,
work
she
for
did
me
look
too.
tan. You're
Because
right.
I kind of that philosophy of if you can't tone, tan.
Uh-huh.
I'm all over that.
Yeah.
So,
I've seen that somewhere on a wall.
yeah.
Um, what was I going to ask you about? What if you don't wear moisturizer?
Then don't do it.
Lotion?
It's specific. Yeah, you can do lotion. Yeah. So I do a face moisturizer and then I do a body
Hmm.
lotion on my skin. So, but you definitely have to
Yeah.
mix it with something. Not
Well, why don't you try it without mixing and to let me know what happens?
that is not happening.
If I wear moisturizer, it just makes me oily. So maybe there's a different kind that I need to try. Okay, well, that's interesting.
Mhm.
We will wait to see what happens
All right.
and
Well,
see how you look
if
next
I'm
week. How
glowing
gradual
next
is it supposed
week,
to be?
it's supposed to turn within 4 hours,
Oh,
and
and does it wash off or what?
it's supposed to last about a week. So Alicia says she reapplies hers about once a week or once every week and a half. So and it's customizable because you can determine how
Hmm.
much of a glow you want. So you can be really brown, really tan,
Okay.
or just a little glowy. So
Yeah. Okay. Good
I
deal.
will let you know.
All right. Sounds good. Mine is a website and it's called pirateship.com and it's for mailing things, for shipping, which I know pirate
Oh,
ship doesn't seem like it, pirate ship.
mhm.
So now I just made the connection between shipping on pirate ship. But Lynn Height told me about it. Yeah, nothing gets by me, does it? Lynn Height told me about it. And that's what Michael has used to ship some stuff. And so I tried it. And so you create an account and when you type in the address that you want to send something to, it pulls up all of the different cheapest options. I mean, it automatically chooses
Hmm.
the best, cheapest option, whether it's UPS or FedEx or USPS, priority
Hmm.
mail, or which is not usually going to be priority, is cheapest, but you can choose that. Usually it's like ground shipping, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you get the lowest price that way.
That's
And it's better
cool.
than going to the post office because they're going to charge you the higher price. And you
Mm-hmm.
can also schedule a pickup. You can do it on the USPS website, but um, you can another thing that's good about it as opposed to doing from the USPS website is that if you have smaller like first class items instead of heavier boxed items, like if you're sending a thick envelope, like we send out those luggage tags to people who are going on the trips, I can do
Mm-hmm.
it from pirate ship without having to go to the post office and without having to go on USPS website because it's harder to find first class postage on there. Anyway, if
Wow.
people use print their postage at home, that's something that we have found to have it's saved us a good bit of money on some shipping things. Like if you sell on Poshmark does its own shipping, but anyway, if you do
Hmm.
mailing stuff, pirateship.com is a great option.
Well, that's awesome. I can't wait to check that out. That's a
Yeah.
really good one. You win.
Yeah.
You always win.
I don't know. We will wait and see until next week how tan you are, and then we'll determine who won.
Okay, that sounds fair.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been a good discussion.
Yes.
Just want to encourage everyone to take advantage of whatever opportunities they can to grow spiritually. That's what we're all about at Looking Up. We want to look up, get everyone to look up at God and see what he would want us to do and how he wants us to be, and keep our minds on things that are above, not on things on the earth. But there are good things on the earth that you can take advantage of that will help you to keep looking up. So if you what next week we'll have some stuff in the group. We'll talk about it and see what things other people might want to recommend. And anyway, just want to invite others to check out our Looking Up group on Facebook and Instagram. And I never know how to say all that stuff. So anyway, I will just say that I love you, and until next week,
keep looking up.
All right.
And I love you too. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, talk to you later.